So this is the Wednesday weekly learning session here for local bartending school. My name is Carlos Navia. I do this every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I won't go into the whole spiel about who I am and stuff like that. I was just answering a question from Monty. Does anybody else have any questions that I could answer for them before I kind of talk about today's topic? Okay, awesome. Oh, wait, someone is talking. Someone have a question, Emil? Did you have a question? Okay, no worries. I was down in Hollywood last week. I know there was some trouble getting in. I think we had the settings wrong on our Zoom, so I understand people couldn't get into it. So I do apologize for that. I was down in Hollywood, in the middle of Hollywood, last week. I had to take my wife down there to do a couple things for her. So I started kind of talking about bars in movies, bars in media, bars in cinema, bars in video games, bars in, comic books and stuff like that. And, I was just really amazed as I kind of started to get into it, how many movies and TV shows and different stuff like that there are that really just revolve around bars or, certain, quintessential scenes and quintessential parts of storylines or, based on the bars, happen in bars and are based on something that goes on in a bar. I did sit down and watch kind of the quintessential bartender movie, Cocktail, with Tom Cruise. And, I saw it the first time when I was 14, still 2 years before I sold my first beer and actually started selling drinks and stuff like that. And I can remember being that age and thinking that, although it was kind of cool, the flipping the bottles and the stuff, that most of the movie was very cheesy and I didn't really care for it. So to rewatch it, some 33 years later and with all the bartending experience and stuff I have now, my opinion of it was pretty much the same. I like the same things I did when I was 14. I found most of the movie stupid. It's kind of a stupid love story and it's very, very tragic at the end. But, it did inspire me a little, to become a bartender and move to the beach, move to the Caribbean and stuff like that. So it is kind of cool to have, lived a little bit of that lifestyle, not exactly like the movie, but kind of like it. But, I went through a lot of other movies and stuff and, TV shows and stuff. Cheers, my favorite TV show as a kid, revolves around a bar. Not surprising that was my favorite show growing up. But, it's really a microcosm of our society. Media and television and movies and stuff like that reflect what's going on in society. And looking through them, it really showed how big a part of our society bars and taverns are, and how big of a role we play as bartenders in the culture and in the society. Now, there is a third of the world that doesn't drink. Islamic folks and Hindu folks do not drink. They don't have bars. That's not part of their, culture. But that leaves the other 2/3 of the world to where we all love to drink. We all love bars. We all love going out, and it is a big part of our culture. So, I was going to just kind of do one lesson about, celebrities and cocktails and Hollywood and that. But as I got further down the rabbit hole of looking into stuff like that, it kind of spilled over into a 2-part episode. So we talked about, movies and TV shows, video games and comic books and stuff like that last week. This week, we talk a little bit about, the celebrities and kind of what they drink and what their role is in all of this. It is a huge trend right now for celebrities to have their own alcohol labels. To make their own alcohol or to make their own wine is becoming very, very trendy. I think it really started, or at least the first time I really was paying attention to it and saw someone do it was, God, I guess it's close to 2 decades ago now, that Sammy Hagar, formerly of Van Halen, bought a bar down in Cabo San Lucas called Cabo Wabo and started making his own tequila. And from there, it's really caught on and it's really become a big thing that different celebrities, have their own brands, have their own, tequilas and different kinds of spirits and stuff like that. When I kind of look through, some of the different people that have stuff now, it's amazing how many celebrities have their own label and have their own brand. As I look through some of these, Marilyn Manson has Mansent, which is his own absinthe that he sells. George Clooney, Casamigos tequila tequilas and mezcals are a big thing that, different people are making right now. I think even LeBron James owns part of a tequila company. It's funny, they showed him at the NBA Finals. He was not participating. I'm a Laker fan. I don't want to talk about it. He was not participating. He was viewing, but he had a bottle of his tequila, under his seat in the stadium that he was sipping on. Um, Aviation Gin, and I did not know this. Aviation's pretty good. It's kind of a newer gin. I think it's only been around for about 10 or 15 years now. I did not know that it was owned by Ryan Reynolds, who you've probably seen in a lot of movies. Deadpool, if you've ever seen that, he's the star of that. And he does make his own gin now. What else we got? George Strait makes a tequila too. Look at that, 1530 Código 1530 tequila made by George Strait. That seems kind of odd to me, since country music is not usually tequila music. It's probably more whiskey music. Matthew McConaughey, Long Branch Bourbon, he's got his own label. This is Bob Dylan, Heaven's Door Whiskey. I love Bob Dylan. He's a great artist. I think he's underappreciated in our modern times. I know Bryan Cranston has come out with a mezcal recently that he's making called Dos Amigos. I forgot who that's with. He's doing that with someone else. Drake has Virginia Black American whiskey, very popular rapper. I think he came up as kind of a child actor. Some of these people, I don't know who they are. Saza 901 tequila, Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake's my hero. I wish I could dance and sing like him. Jay-Z's got his own cognac, Ducey. I know about that one. There's some of these other ones. Danny DeVito makes his own limoncello called Premium Limoncello. I don't talk about that a lot. Limoncello is a sour Italian liqueur. A lot of times people will drink it after dinner. It's a really good digestive. The lemon flavor kind of cleans your palate, so it gets a taste of all the other foods and stuff out of there. So you kind of add a nice clean finish there. Some of these I'm not going to mention. Cheech Marin's got his own mezcal now too. Sammy Hagar, like I already mentioned, he's making some rum and some other things now, because he really started that, in the 90s with the Cabo Wabo tequila. And I know that one. Willie Nelson, Old River Whiskey. Who else we got here? Ludacris makes his own cognac. I think that's very popular for the rappers. Cognac is big in their circles. Billy Gibbons, Pure Vita, which is his own tequila. ZZ Top guitarist, if you don't know who Billy Gibbons is. Very cool guy. He's done a lot of acting too in recent years on several TV shows as well. Soccer player David Beckham has his own. What is that? It's whiskey, I believe, Scotch that he makes. What else am I looking for here? I know there's some more here I want to talk about too. Darius Rucker, if you don't know, he's Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish, and also a very popular, country singer, has his own whiskey as well. AC/DC makes their own tequila, AC/DC Thunderstruck. There's a couple more down here. Channing Tatum has his own vodka. I did not know that. Popular actor, 21 Jump Street, stuff like that. Dan Aykroyd makes a vodka called Crystal Head, and I'm guessing that's different than the actual Crystal Skull vodka that I've seen before, but kind of looks the same. Comes, in the Crystal Skull bottle. I have not tried that one per se, but I know that, the Crystal Skull vodka is not very good. It's really cheap vodka in a Crystal Skull. I do not recommend it. This one I didn't know, Effin Vodka, EFFEN, which is very popular. 50 Cent. I did not know that he was part of that and taken into that. Rapper and also actor. I see him on TV a lot. What's that show? Power. If anyone's ever seen that on HBO, good show. Bill Murray's got a vodka, Slovenia. Robert De Niro's got a vodka. Who else we got here? Pitbull, of course, rappers, and artists like that. I think it's becoming very, very popular to have their own, type of alcohol. Toby Keith, who I'm not a fan of actually artistically, but I know he has his own chain of restaurants and bars. He has his own mezcal that he makes, of course, as well. And we probably got a couple more in here. I think that's about it. So, you can really see how many celebrities have gotten into it and how many celebrities are, making different liquors and producing their own liquors. The other thing, and it's big in California because I live in wine country, is there's a lot of wineries. Klay Thompson, who's a basketball player for the Golden State Warriors, 3 times world champion. He is coming out with one called Threes and Diamonds with a very famous baseball player that they're starting their own winery. I know, several NBA coaches have their own wine and, produce stuff like that. It's a big thing. It is part of a society. It is definitely something they're into. And I just think it's awesome that, all these celebrities are getting into it and kind of plugging their own things. God, what's the one I see around here a lot now? I'm starting to see new tequila called 818 that I believe is made by the Kardashians, or one of the Jenners are Kardashians, which is, I didn't know that when I was looking at it in the store, but 818 is the area code for the San Fernando Valley in LA, which is where the Kardashians live in Calabasas. So they're making that own kind of stuff there. Not a big fan of the Kardashians. I can remember when I was a kid, Bruce Jenner was like one of the most famous athletes in the world. Like, he was a hero to us all. His life has taken some twists and turns, as they say, and it's a little bit different now, but I also kind of wanted to see, okay, you've got your own type of alcohol, you produce your own alcohol, but, what do celebrities really drink? And what are they really drinking when they go out or when they're hanging out at home? The Crystal Skull vodka, Dan Aykroyd, I guess that is the same. It's not a good product. I'm sorry, Dan Aykroyd. I apologize for that. Pamela Anderson, into the Mai Tais, which is awesome too. And, I've talked about Mai Tai a little before, and the history and the stuff about it, because it's one of those drinks that's got so many weird variations and made so many different ways from place to place. One of the reasons being very few bars carry orange curacao and orgeat syrup, which is an almond syrup, which is what's used to make the, traditional recipe. The original recipe from Oakland, California, from Trader Vic's in Oakland, is just Jamaican aged rum, lime juice, orange curacao, orgeat syrup on the rocks. Really, really simple. But, we all think more of the Royal Hawaiian version of it, which is actually also invented by Trader Vic. The Royal Hawaiian Hotel enlisted him, brought him out to Hawaii to make them a version of the drink, which is what most people think of now. Light rum, dark rum, lime juice, orgeat syrup, orange curacao, pineapple juice. I've also heard some reports that say it's pineapple and orange juice. Different people have different reports on the way, on the way it went down and the way it was originally made. And since I was not there, I was not there in the 40s when he made it. I do not know if that's true or not. So all I can do is kind of read the accounts from back then. But awesome, awesome drink, and as I kind of said, it's one of those that you go to different places, it's just gonna be made differently. Living on an island in Florida, living at the beach there, we could go down the beach from one restaurant to another, and you were going to get a different house recipe for Mai Tai in each restaurant as you went down. So it's a really cool drink. But once again, a lot of times not made truly the way it's supposed to be. And there are a lot of kind of different takes and variations off it. Jennifer Aniston, into the margaritas. And who doesn't like a margarita? Come on, #1 selling mixed drink in the world. Made properly, it is delicious. And, I've kind of said this before. When it comes to making a margarita, give it a little shake. That little shake goes a long way. Most drinks, it's not going to make a big difference. It's going to mix in the glass. They can mix it a little with their straw. It's not making a huge difference giving it a little shake. But the margarita is one. A little shake gives it a little frothy head back into the glass, and you're good to go. It's a much better drink. Even if they want salt on it, I can still shake it. Little shake, I let it drip out. My sponge, my salt, pour it back in there. You're ready to go. I really love when people come up to the bar and they'll say, hey, can I get, 2 margaritas with salt? And I'll grab 2 glasses and I'll start making them. And they'll be like, hey, I wanted salt on that. And I'll just nod my head, give it a little shake, give them their salt. And then usually the other person goes, shut up. He knows what he's doing. Leave him alone. So it's a nice touch if you can do it to the margaritas. Jim Belushi grappa. Grappa is an alcohol made from grapes. Distilled grapes is how they make it. Haven't tried a lot of that. I'm surprised there's not more here where I live, in wine country and grape land. What they actually do around here is they distill the grapes and make it into other stuff. They say they're making, vodka made from grapes or gin made from grapes or, this and that. And it's really just grappa. If you're making vodka made from grapes, if it's distilled grape and water, that's all it is. When you get into the gins and you're flavoring with botanicals, yeah, that's more of a thing you could call it, but it's really just grappa that they're using around here. They do a lot of things with around here. Oh, Beyonce. I love Beyonce. I think she's awesome. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. It's a great, great song. I think that's awesome. Into the Long Island iced teas. Beyonce, look at you. Strong drink. Kind of surprises me a little that would be her drink of choice, but that's awesome. Awesome too. Thing to remember on Long Island's, number one, it's strong. It's going to have 2.5 ounces of alcohol in it. It's going to be a strong drink. The other thing is they don't taste like alcohol. You don't taste the alcohol in it. It just tastes like zippy iced tea with a little zing to it. So, be careful when you're serving the Long Islands to people. Someone that's just sucking them down one after another, that person's out to make some bad decisions. That person's going to get into some trouble. They're going to have something happen through the course of the night. The other thing about Long Islands is because we're putting 5 liquors in there, we don't really kind of know how it's going to affect people. All liquor is going to affect everybody differently. We have our determining factors of how fast people get drunk, how much water's in your system, number one. That's why women get drunk faster than men. They have less water in their system. Have you eaten anything today? How rested are you? What is your tolerance? Do you have anything in your system that's over-the-counter, prescription, or recreational? So, we have all these factors going that are going to affect a person. The other thing is I can kind of categorize how liquor affects people by the liquor. Beer makes people mean, whiskey makes people fight, gin makes people think they're smarter than they are, rum makes people festive, wine makes people jolly, tequila makes people lose articles of clothing. It's the way it happens. It's the way it goes down. I've seen it. If I put 5 different liquors in a cup and give it to you, now you're a wild card. I have no direction you're going to go when you're drinking those 5 liquors, when you're doing that. So you do have to be careful with the Long Islands. The other thing that's really cool about Long Islands, though, is all the variations we can do to them. Because it's really simple to just change what you're topping the drink with and make it a whole other drink. So if I come back to my Long Islands, and the way I was taught to remember it is it's all your clear well liquors. So rum, gin, tequila, triple sec, vodka. Now, a lot of times, yes, the tequila's gold. It's not technically clear, but that's the way I was taught, and that's the way I remember it. It's also not uncommon for people to leave the tequila out. I've seen several places, establishments that just don't put tequila in their Long Islands. They just do the other 4 liquors. Pretty common. It does, happen from time to time. So if I'm making my, my Long Island, I've got my gin, rum, vodka, triple sec, tequila, filling it almost to the top with sweet and sour mix, topping it off with Coca-Cola. But if we go back to our just mix of our 5 liquors, our sweet and sour, but we leave the Coca-Cola off, now we can have some fun with it, and we can make a lot of other drinks just from this base of it by adding something different on top. So if I put cranberry on top of it instead of Coke, it's a Long Beach iced tea. If I put pineapple juice on top instead of Coke, it's a Hawaiian iced tea. If I put blue curacao on top, it's an Adios Mother Effer. If I put Midori melon on top, it's a Tokyo iced tea. If I put raspberry liqueur on top, it's a Grateful Dead. If I top it with sour grape puckers, it's a Gilligan's Island. A lot of cool variations, a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. And it's really easy to change that drink, give someone something that's a different color and a different name than they've heard before, and they're definitely going to remember it. It's kind of surprises me how much that little change, will kind of make a difference for people. Place to talk about here a lot, the Madonna Inn has a large banquet facility. It's separated from the rest of their buildings. For a stand-up concert, it holds about 2,500 people. We would offer a 24-ounce Long Island, Tokyo, or Adios for the same price. You got a choice of the 3. All we would do ahead of time is take a big Gatorade, jug like they use sideline at football games. Me and the general manager would put all the liquors in. We'd put our sweet and sour in. We'd give it a taste till we felt like we got it to the right point. He would stand behind me, fill cups with ice. and just set them down behind me. Someone came up to the bar, wanted a Long Island. I grab a cup, Coke, straw, lemon, boom. You want a Tokyo? I grab a cup, green, melon, lemon, straw, boom. Adios, I grab one, blue, straw, lemon, boom. And it was such a little thing, but I literally overheard this conversation where a guy, guys were like, oh, well, get a Long Island, get a Long Island. Oh, I don't like Long Island iced teas. Okay, we'll get a Tokyo iced tea. Well, okay. And the person was happy with it. All we did was change one thing on top, to give it a different color. But also remember too, that when we are doing a topper with another liquor, now we're talking about 6 liquors in there. Now we're talking about 3 ounces of alcohol in there. So it is making it a little stronger. And when we talk about topping or, floating stuff on top of a drink, 2 circles around the top. So we're still doing our same 1-2 count to get our half ounce. But if we do it in a circular motion, 1, 2 around the top of the glass, it just allows it to sit on top of the drink instead of falling down into it. If I open it up straight into there, it's going to fall down in there. If I do my 2 circles around the top, it will sit on top and float on top of the drink. Throw that out over there. What else we got here? Bono drinks Jack Daniels. That kind of surprises me. You find, I got my Jack bottle here. You find, because Jack is a little bit different than any other whiskey. Jack is charcoal filtered. It has a very specific taste. You will find that people love it or people hate it, and there's not a lot of in between. No one's kind of on the fence when it comes to Jack Daniels. Love it or hate it. Tony Braxton drinks Cosmopolitans. The Cosmopolitans, a Cosmopolitan's a great drink because it has a really good balance to it. Vodka has no flavor. It just tastes like alcohol. You're putting in triple sec, so you're giving it some sweet orange flavor. You're also putting in your Rose's lime juice, so you're giving it some sour as well, and then some tartness of the cranberry. So you have kind of the sweet citrus, the sour citrus, and then that tartness all kind of combined to give it a good balanced flavor. And you can have some fun with Cosmos too. If I use blueberry vodka and I use blue curacao instead of triple sec, now I have a blueberry Cosmo and it has a nice blue hue to it. If I use raspberry vodka, add a little bit of Chambord or raspberry liqueur, bam, now I have a raspberry Cosmopolitan. I've made those for tons of people who didn't know what they wanted to drink when they sat down at the bar. I have never had one come back or, had anyone not enjoy it. And sometimes you'll get this, I'll make a drink for someone. I'll be like, is that good? Do you like that? And they'll be like, yeah, it's good. It's good, which means it's not, which means they're really not into it. They're just trying not to hurt my feelings. Like, hey, I'll take it back. I'm a big boy. If you don't like it, I'll get you something else. It's not a big deal. It happens. We don't want to waste the liquor, but it does happen. It is kind of part of the job. Chevy Chase into drinking pina coladas, which I was actually making last week from scratch here at my house. Now this one's interesting. George Clooney raspberry cheesecake. Vodka, raspberry liqueur, heavy cream, sour mix over ice with a little mint sprig. I had not heard that one before. I'm kind of curious to try that now. That seems like a pretty cool drink if we were able to get it worked out. Beer. Aperol Spritz I talked about before too. See, this one I saw too earlier. Johnny Depp, who I think is cool, is definitely a very, we'll call him an eccentric character, a little kind of far out. Blueberry ginger bourbon sour. So muddled blueberries in a rocks glass, your bourbon, a little Domaine de Canton, which is a ginger liqueur, really recognizable bottle. It comes in a beige bottle and it has black lined ribs that go all the way up the bottle. So it's a really easy one to recognize with some Domaine de Canton, sour mix, bourbon, and muddled blueberries. So you've got your blueberry ginger sour. Beer. A lot of them drink beer. That's not exciting at all. Lady Gaga, Jameson on the rocks. Andy Garcia, I don't see him around anymore. He was in a lot of stuff. What's the one I'm thinking of, the old movies that he's in with Kevin Costner? The Untouchables, one of my favorite movies as a kid. Into the Negronis. Negroni's still a popular drink, still around a lot, equal parts of sweet vermouth, Campari, and gin. And usually I'm going to ask the person what kind of gin they like. Generally, all gins have a different flavor. They can be flavored with any botanical, which is just a fancy word for plants. So, Tanqueray, if you smell it, has a very piney smell to it, a piney taste. It's flavored with juniper. That's what gives it that smell. Hendrick's gin is flavored with cucumbers. There's a strawberry one now called Indago. So, gins have different flavors. I usually like to ask the person what kind of gin they like. I think this one's actually very funny. Jeff Gordon, race car driver, likes white wine spritzers. And that just sounds about right. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go through all these. A couple more. Paris Hilton tequila. I think I already knew that one. Angelina Jolie tequila. I already knew that one too. Kim Kardashian, as I'm already talking about Kardashians, White Russian. And who doesn't like a good White Russian, a good Caucasian? I was actually making those 2 weeks ago. Vodka, coffee liqueur like Kahlua. Kahlua is a little bit different than other coffee liqueurs because it has rum in it. It's mixed with rum. Gives it a little stronger. Makes it a little stronger. Gives it a little different flavor than your Tia Maria or your Camorra, which is basically your cheap knockoff stuff. The thing with White Russians is you don't have to overdo it on the half and half. It doesn't take a whole lot of cream. I think what a lot of people don't realize that when you're drinking cream drinks, it curdles in your stomach. A good example of that is Trick Shot that I talked about before, which is a cement mixer. You take a shot of Bailey's, drop a couple drops of Rose's lime juice in there, in about 2 seconds it curdles. And it turns to chunks like kind of like cottage cheese consistency type chunks. Also, if you ever had an Irish car bomb, where you've got your shot of Jameson or your shot of Irish whiskey and Bailey's and you drop it into Guinness, the second you drop it in, you've got to drink that. Because if you let it sit for 2 seconds, bam, once again, it's going to curdle, it's going to turn chunky and nasty in the glass. And it's a real pain in the butt to clean. Like once someone lets that Irish car bomb sit there and turns solid, then you got to pour the glass out with all the goopy stuff out and wash it out. Such a pain in the butt and wasted alcohol, on that one. Anything. Pomegranate martini. I'll talk about that a little bit. Gin tonic. So I won't go through all these. French 76. But, I've got a list here of, 100 plus celebrities and what they drink and what they like. So, as much as it's a part of kind of everyday life, for us and for folks, it's a big part of celebrities' lives too. They're people just like any other people. I grew up in Palm Springs, California area, which is the Hollywood hideaway. It is where celebrities go to get out of Hollywood and have a nice relaxing time in the desert, and relax and not be bothered. It's one of those things that you have to be aware of too when you're working. Celebrity comes in, someone famous comes in, you have to treat them like everybody else. They're out to have the same experience that everybody else is, and they deserve to have that same experience like everybody else does. Where I grew up in Desert Hot Springs, and you guys can Google it and see how crazy this place is. There's a place called Two Bunch Palms. It's kind of a secret place. It's out in the middle of the desert. There's nothing around it, and it is a place where celebrities go. You cannot take pictures in there. You cannot even have your cell phone out if you're in the common areas of that place, because they don't want anyone taking pictures of the other people that may be in there. I once, before I came to full service bartender, for one winter to make extra money for Christmas, I helped run UPS. So I didn't drive the truck. I sat on a little jump seat and I just ran stuff into the building and out. One place I could not go into was Two Bunch Palms, because if they saw a UPS man they did not recognize, they would freak out, because there's a good chance running something for UPS into that lobby that you are going to come across someone famous, and you cannot turn around and go announce it to the world that, Robert Downey Jr. is here, or someone is here, or Kardashian is here doing this and that. You have to kind of maintain your composure and be cool about it. Remember that you're working, not asking for autographs and stuff like that. There's a story a couple of years ago. I thought it was funny, because a server put a very famous athlete, a basketball player who makes, $20 million a year. He went out to dinner and he left the guy basically pennies as a tip. Whatever the dollar amount was, he just rounded it up to the next dollar, left the guy like 27 cents, something like that. So the server takes a picture of it, puts it on Facebook. I had so and so the other night and he was cheap. He didn't tip me, blah, 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 blah. Well, the basketball player came out to defend himself, saying, I left that 27-cent tip on purpose because this guy was coming up to me asking me personal questions, asking me for autographs, asking me if I could take a picture with him. And I don't expect my server to do that. So I left that because his behavior was inappropriate and he shouldn't have been doing it. And it's very, very true. One of those hotels I talk about here, the Cambria Pines Lodge, for a while there, for 2 years there, actually, I bartended and I booked their entertainment. So they have live music every night. Through the course of booking their entertainment, I happened to get an email from a guy who, as it turns out, was a very well-known songwriter in Los Angeles and in the business, and knew several very famous people. So he ends up bringing Jeff Bridges up to the bar, and they play guitar for free. Jeff Bridges came, played a 2-hour set for us. We gave him a steak dinner, so not technically for free, but it was an awesome, awesome thing to do. It was a very cool thing to do. And one of his kind of biggest things in setting that up was, you guys can't advertise this. Like, he has very famous friends and he doesn't want it advertised because that's not their thing. If they want to make money and play to a room full of people, they can do that. They can sign up to do that anytime. Sometimes they like to get away, just show up at a club where no one's expecting them so that they can play to a room of 100 people, kind of like the old days. And he mentioned that story to me before. I mentioned a story to me actually before we set it up, which was, he had signed up, him and one of his friends, Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers is another one of his friends he brought. He said there's a bar down in Santa Barbara and they had agreed to come in and play. And the owner ends up going and putting it on Facebook, the day before. And when they got there to play the show, it was so packed they couldn't even get into the parking lot. And he said they got upset and just turned around and left and never played the show because, that's not what he wanted. They did not want him attracting a bunch of people. He did not want him putting it out there and getting all those people. It was supposed to just be, a fun thing for them to come do and show up. So, treat them like everybody else. After Jeff Bridges played, he was a super nice guy. He took pictures with all of us. Not only did he take pictures with all of us, he was just grabbing people's phones out of their hands. He was setting up the shots. And it finally occurred to me that this guy has been on camera his whole life. He knows more about how to set up a decent shot than any of the rest of us. One of the funny ones, my wife wanted to take a picture with him. He said, okay. He's like, you stand here and you put your arm here and I'm gonna put my arm here. And he said, look this way. So I have a prom picture of Jeff Bridges and my wife. They're posing like they're in prom. So cool guy, funny guy, but there was a time to take pictures. There was a time to, do stuff like that and ask him questions. And it was when it was all done and he was very, very cool about it. The same guy brought Michael McDonald, who I was just talking about, up there as well to play. And killer night, they're crushing it. The cocktail server, Jackie, bless her heart, I love Jackie. She came behind the bar at one point and was like, man, this guy playing tonight's really good. He sounds just like the guy on the radio. To which the bartender replied, Jackie, it is the guy on the radio. It's like, oh, well, no wonder, it makes sense. So, you got those people around, be cool, treat them cool, try not to freak out, get starstruck, stuff like that. So there is a drink that I was looking up called the Hollywood. And as I kind of looked at the recipe and gave it a little look, what it really does is resembles another recipe that I had heard before called a French martini. So I'm going to take my martini glass here. I'm going to throw some ice in it. So I get my martini glass nice and chill here. I'm going to put a little water in it. We're going to set it to the side, let it chill. All right, so I've got my glass chilling over here. I'm going to grab my tin. I'm going to throw some ice in here. So vodka, raspberry liqueur, pineapple juice, how you make a Hollywood, or at least the recipe I looked up. I looked it up in several places. Also saw peach schnapps in there in one of the recipes. Sounds like a nice touch, give it a little extra flavor. But I was taught that as a French martini, kind of an exception being you got to use French vodka. I would use Ciroc a lot of times, which is owned by another rapper. That's another celebrity who owned alcohol right there. I got my Grey Goose, some French vodka. And, then you would use French raspberry liqueur, which is Chambord, which most people have in a lot of bars. If not, you kind of have your knockoff razzmatazz. Or the other thing you can always use is creme de cassis, Cassis. Creme de cassis is made from black currants. Black currants are very similar to black raspberries, has a very similar flavor to raspberry liqueur. So, anything that calls for Chambord or razzmatazz or creme de cassis, if you have one, you can make any drink that calls for the three of them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my fake Grey Goose here. I'm going to throw an ounce of it in here. I'm going to grab my fake raspberry liqueur here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to throw an ounce of that in there. I'm going to come back with a little bit of pineapple juice to top it off. And pineapple juice settles. Always give it a good shake to make sure you're mixing it up so it's not all settled down the bottom. Pineapple, perfect. And grab my mix in, lock it in there, back towards myself, give it a good shake. Keeping my head up, making sure I'm looking around, I'm smiling, I'm being attentive. Nice, good rock there. Pop this out, let it drip. Grab my glass, dump my water out. I always try to get a little bit of the water out. Be careful. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to do this to kind of get the water out, smacked it on the bar, broke the glass, and occasionally, or I shouldn't say occasionally, a time or two, I've smacked it on the bar and broke it right into my ice well, which is the worst. So I'm going to pour out my French martini here like this. Nice and smooth, nice and easy. We're going to let it get a little drip, drip, drip. Like that. And then, as always, give it a little shake, and a little more is going to drip out. Should drip out. There we go. Nice and foamy and frothy. Good deal. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a cherry in this one to kind of top it off. Like that. And there's our French martini or our Hollywood martini if you want to do it like that. Now, the other place that I was looking up, and the other drink that I was looking up, called the Brown Derby. Let me see if I got a picture of the Brown Derby. So there used to be this old restaurant in Hollywood called the Brown Derby, and it was shaped like a hat. It was a big brown hat that you walked into that the restaurant was in. Unfortunately, they closed it down sometime in the 80s, and it's no longer around anymore. Oh, I thought I had a picture, but I do not have a picture. I apologize. Very cool restaurant. I was really going to have more pictures of it that I started looking at because there's pictures of a lot of famous people in there, but it was too numerous to put all those pictures in there. Clark Gable, all these old actors from kind of the heyday of Hollywood. This was their spot. Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, would hang out there a lot. I think a lot of people, and I mentioned this last week, a lot of people don't realize that when I Love Lucy was on, it was the longest running TV show in history at the time. They had more episodes than any other show. Lucy was actually married to Desi Arnaz too, not only in the show, but in real life. So you would see them around a lot. Very famous, very cool hangout. And they had a drink, if I can find it. They have a signature drink called the Brown Derby, which was named after the restaurant and served in the restaurant. And if I can bring up the recipe, I believe it's done with honey syrup. And let's see if I can find it. Brown Derby cocktail. There it is. Liquor.com, always my favorite place to look up drinks. If I haven't mentioned that before, my favorite place to look for them if I need to Google a drink. So yeah, ginger syrup, bourbon, and grapefruit juice, fresh squeezed grapefruit juice. And, shake it up, strain it in a glass over fresh ice. Give it a little grapefruit twist if you got it on there to make your Brown Derby. Very, very cool cocktail, kind of Hollywood type cocktail. So, that's our part in all of this. We have our part in society. We play a big role in society for people, going out. It's one of the things too, bartenders know all, because you will hear everything about everybody. You will hear everything about the town, about everybody you work with, because the alcohol loosens up the lips. And if you're doing your job right, which I hope we all are, you're kind of just like the wall. You know, you're not really seen, you're not really heard, you're making the drinks, people are talking in front of you. So, enjoy it. I love this industry. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I love doing this. I cannot express enough kind of my passion for bars and cocktails and stuff like that. So I think it's just a great thing. When I was looking at the video games last week too, of all these bartender simulations and video games, I mean, that really tells you where it is. People, this is a desirable job. People want to be bartenders to the point where they will sit home and play a video game to be a bartender, just like they would to be a race car driver or a pilot or something like that. The other thing I'm gonna kind of leave you with is the one line that I love from Cocktail that I thought was great. And Cohagen, the guy that's teaching Tom Cruise, his mentor, his guru, tells him at one point, bartenders are the aristocracy of the working class. And I couldn't have put it better. We really are. We are the top end of the working class. Bartenders make a lot more money than a lot of people that are working hourly jobs and doing a lot of other different things. So, be proud to be a bartender, be proud of the drinks you're making, the stuff you're doing, and be proud of being part of this industry, because it is really an integral part, of our society. Does anyone have any questions about anything I talked about today or anything else that I can answer for them? Okay. If not, I don't have a topic for next week yet. I will admit that. I need to get on that. So I'm not sure we're going to talk about next week. I will definitely have it up like this, though. I'll try to make a couple, fake cocktails, or maybe make a real cocktail. We're kind of in the middle of summer, so things are going to start winding down. We're going to get into a fall season, and tastes are going to change. We're going to start, talking about some different drinks that are better for the fall. So any questions from anyone? If not, thank you very much for showing up. I hope you all enjoyed today's lesson and demonstration. And everybody have a great week. I will see you next week.